Okay. Yitzi Weiner is a journalist, author, and the founder of Authority Magazine and CEO of Authority Magazine's Thought Leader Incubator. Yitzi created the popular 5 Things I Wish Someone Had Told Me of high-profile entrepreneurs and public figures inspiring people worldwide to share their positive, empowering, and actionable stories. At Authority Magazine, Yitzi is at the helm of thousands of interviews with prominent figures and C-suite executives from Fortune 500 companies. A trained rabbi, Yitzi is also a dynamic educator, teacher, and orator. He currently lives in Maryland with his wife and 7 children. He is a generous and gracious human being, and I'm so honored to be interviewing him today. I'm Nancy Landrum, a new member of Thought Leader Incubator. Yitzi, you're most well known in the business world because of Authority Magazine and Thought Leader Incubator. But as you know, my passion is about relationships. So I'm glad that you're allowing me to interview you today on a more personal topic having to do with relationships. Our learning about relationships begins with our families of origin. I wonder if you'd be comfortable sharing some of your memories or experience. What did you learn about relationships from your first family?
Sure. So to begin, Nancy, I want to thank you so much for your graciousness and having me on. It's really a pleasure to talk to you always, and I'm honored to be here.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to interview you.
Thank you so much. So I was born in New Jersey, although my parents moved to California when I was 1 year old. So then they lived shortly in Santa Barbara, California, then in San Francisco, California. And I spent the bulk of my childhood in Los Angeles, California.
Wow.
Uh,
A
yeah,
lot of California in your
right,
childhood.
exactly. So, yeah, I had a wonderful childhood. I was the oldest of 3 siblings. I have 3 siblings, and yeah, my mother always was and continues to be extremely gracious and thoughtful. We always had guests over, guests for for the weekends, for Shabbat meals. So it was like a very open and welcoming home. My parents doted on their parents, even though that they lived, across the country, but they always had a great relationship with their parents. So that's what I saw. That was my model. They say that the way you treat your parents is the way your children will treat you, and I see that in my situation. The truth is that my parents actually ended up getting divorced. So I grew up in, so they got divorced when I was 13 years old. And I think to a large degree, the mistakes that um, one of my parents made in the relationship, I think it really has served as like a guidepost for my own marriage. So I'm very blessed that I'm married for now 23 years.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Congratulations to you and your wife.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much. And yeah, I often use my parents' story as like a cautionary tale, but
Mhm.
I relate to my spouse and to my children. But they're generally speaking, though, I had a very good childhood. I have very good memories. Um, yeah,
I
so that's what I could recall.
I like to tell my kids and some of my clients, and I think a parent's job is to create as many good memories for their children as possible. And one of the good memories is how a mom and dad treat each other, as an example for their children. 13 is a pretty difficult age to have mom and dad break up. But you've used it, from what you're saying, you've used it as a lesson about what you would not do in your marriage. So tell me, you also mentioned to me a while back that you were part of a very large step family. And as you know, step families are near and dear to my heart. They're one of the um, purposes that I have helping step families succeed. What was your experience as a young man in a step family?
Sure. Excellent question. So when I was 19 years old, my mother got remarried. So we, our family had four children, and my mother got remarried to somebody who had 11 children. It was,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so my stepfather had eight daughters and three sons. So the truth is though that I was already not living at home. I was already post high school. I was living in a school dormitory, but so I didn't have the same the same experience growing up with a step parent as my siblings did. My experience is very different than living with the step parents,
Yes.
step siblings. But by and large, my experience has been stellar. My stepfather is really a gem of a human being. So much so that my father has a great relationship with my stepfather, and
Wow.
my father respects him tremendously. He has tremendous respect, and they have a good relationship. And I understand that that's probably not typical.
It's very, very unusual. And I'm very happy that you and your siblings, all of the siblings, have had that experience of mutual respect rather than living in the middle of a war zone.
100%. No, I've been very blessed that despite the fact that my parents got divorced, never, I don't think ever have I heard one parent badmouth the other after they got divorced. I know that's probably like, parental alienation, I know is a big challenge, but my parents would go out of their ways, trip over themselves to not, even though they had their different disagreements, and obviously things weren't always rosy, but they would never speak to the children about their parents. So yeah, I've been very blessed in that way. So I never really had any alienation to my parents.
That's one of the primary tenets that is recommended for couples when they divorce and remarry. The number one thing is to keep your children out of the conflict. And to do that, you do not speak disrespectfully about their other parents. So your parents had some great wisdom there, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, yeah, it. Yeah, I'm very grateful and very blessed.
Well, I'm changing the topic. You've been very open about your recovery from alcoholism. I'm wondering what, in your mind, set you up to become an alcoholic, and then also what were the primary factors that helped you overcome alcoholism?
Sure. So I think there may have been a miscommunication. There was alcoholism in my family,
Okay,
my immediate family, but and that it affected me greatly, but it wasn't me. Thank God.
I'm
But
sorry,
but
I
but
misunderstood.
no problem at all, no problem at all. But yeah, so I was like, I think there's a term called like there's a certain term like someone who's related to an alcoholic, and it definitely affected me, and it um definitely imprinted itself on my life. But
How, tell us then, from your perspective as a family member, what was alcoholism? What kind of effect did it have on you or on the relationship with the alcoholic in your family?
sure. So number one is it was impossible to trust the person because
Yes.
he would always tell lies, not necessarily because he was a bad person, but you never could rely on him. Never could rely on him. He would say things that wouldn't be true, or he would never keep it, or change at the last minute. That was one thing. Another thing is like it feels so insecure when during times of sobriety, when the person's sober, the person's lucid, they're charismatic and wonderful and generous, but then they become literally a Mr. Hyde. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
when they're an alcoholic, they're like a different, angry and spiteful and bitter, and so it just makes you feel insecure. You never know. You really never know when you're good, when you're secure, when when things are steady, because at any moment things could just tip over.
So,
Um,
so trust was always tentative then.
Even today, even the truth is this person's still in recovery. I mean, I wouldn't say they're definitely growing, and maybe they're 80, 80, 90%, towards sobriety, but it's still impossible to trust this very close relative.
Oh gosh, you may not know this. My son was a drug addict
Hmm,
and eventually died as a result of his drug addiction.
hmm,
And so I was forced to learn a whole lot more about addiction and codependency than I thought I ever needed to know. My experience with him wiped out all my judgment of addicts and parents of addicts. I used to think that kids that ended up in drug addiction had problems with their parents, and certainly I was not a perfect parent, but I can't take all the blame, for addiction. And I understand that insecurity of not being able to trust someone who's a practicing addict, because when they are in their addiction, they are not their real selves. It's a whole different personality. Well, I'm very grateful that wasn't your experience. I'm sorry that you've had the experience of being in relationship with an addict. Um, let's turn the camera a little bit on your marriage. You've been married for 23 years, you said. What are some of the factors that you believe contribute to your successful long marriage?
well, off the bat, it's because I have an amazing spouse. That's the truth. It's not, there's no tricks, no techniques there. When you really married to a gracious, um, angelic person,
Uh-huh.
it makes it easier to have a very good relationship. Not to say that there's never disagreements and things are always
Oh,
perfect,
of course.
but she's really really a good person. That's really the starting point. And the truth is, when I was looking to get married, I was looking. One of the things I was looking primarily for was somebody who had good character. That's
Good
the foundation.
character.
Good character, a good person is the foundation. Everything else is secondary to that
Yes.
primary thing.
My
Um,
son was recently asked, to explain his 30-year marriage to his wife. And he laughed and he said, first of all, we're both very stubborn. And then he said, you be careful who you choose, and then you stick with your choice. So you did those two things. You were careful who you chose. And because of that, you've been able to stick with your choice.
I think
I'm
another important thing, and this may be intuitive or obvious, but it really stuck with me. I remember as I'm about to go under the marriage canopy, my wife's great grandmother. So it wasn't my great grandmother, but it was my soon to be great grandmother, and she passed away not too long after we got married. Her name was Zelda. She was a very extremely gracious and she was like a queen. She was probably in her 90s, but she was like this queen. And
uh-huh.
and she told me right before I'm about to get married, she said, "Let me tell you, I've been married for like 50 years or whatever, 80 to her 80s, whatever." And she said the secret that I she told me this, the secret that we had was whenever we had a disagreements, we would not go to bed until we resolved it. We would not go
Yes.
to bed angry over it. The point is we would, something that was an issue, we would just communicate, we would discuss it, we would work it out. And that really stuck with me, meaning that, there are only times that things may say something that's hurtful or insensitive or disappointing. And then just the point is to just get it out, communicate over it, apologize, you know, uh, and so that is able to diminish the intensity as well as the frequency of disagreements by being able to just to address it, not always
Yes.
under the rug, address it, and then like make up, and take the lesson for the future.
There's two or three things here I want to point out. First of all, conflict is unavoidable in any close relationship. communication, being willing to talk about a disagreement or hurt feelings is certainly essential. And then having the humility to apologize when you're wrong. You know, that's so critical. I'm very happy to hear you outline that formula. I tell people that I teach couples how to talk without fighting. You know, being able to talk respectfully is such a key. And you've mentioned graciousness now 3 times. Once about your mother, that she was a very gracious woman. You mentioned that you chose a woman who was very gracious, and now your admiration for your wife's great grandmother. You know, what a gracious woman she was. So that's obviously a high priority for you.
Yeah, what I mean by graciousness is being kind for the sake of kindness, even though it isn't necessarily earned or required.
Yes. Not always because we deserve it,
Right, right.
but because it was part of your the priority of your character. If I were to ask your wife and your children what they appreciate the most about you, what do you think they would say?
So I'll be honest, I'm really a shy person, and I try to be humble and modest. So it's against my nature to toot my own horn. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you the values that I try my best to exhibit are, number one, I'm very cognizant of the fact that the first interaction sets a tone.
Mm-hmm.
The beginnings are a genesis. A genesis,
Whatever comes out of your mouth first.
right, exactly. A genesis means two things. Genesis means the creation as well as it means the beginning. And the point is that the beginnings are what create all that follows. So when I get home from work, if my face, the energy, the first thing I say is something that's critical or negative, it sets a tone for the rest of the night.
Yes.
The opposite. If I come with a smile, with an upbeat mood, I'm happy and smiling, it sets a tone for the rest of the night. So I'm very, very conscious of having my first interaction to be very upbeat and positive. And because I'm very aware that I literally, it's like a smell almost. It's like you
Yes.
energy in a home.
It's an aura that
Right,
precedes us, doesn't it?
right, exactly. So that's number one, I think. I think my kids would say we live in a very happy, joyous home. Again, even though the times that things aren't always joyous and things are difficult sometimes, but we try our best to, yeah, the kids should feel that they're growing up in a positive
Mm.
home, joyous home. I think another thing is there's a famous book, I think it's called The 1 Minute Manager, I think.
Yes.
And one of the famous things, the well-known things the author writes is that you have to catch your employees doing the right thing. The point is that
Yes.
when you just give a compliment, sometimes people feel like it's not sincere. But if you compliment them when they're doing the right thing, then you're actually talking about a real thing. So I try to do that. I try my best to compliment my children and my spouse. Whenever they do something that's good or positive, I try to identify it and speak about it. Because I remember that, growing up, I always wanted my father's approval and my father's respect and admiration. And I know it's like sunshine for a child. I know that from my own
Yes.
experience. So I try to do that, try to give this easy sunshine to show them that I'm proud of them, show them that I appreciate them, and catch them in the act doing it so they know that
Yes.
it's not just flattery.
Oh gosh, you're illustrating so many of the points in the lessons that I teach. I'm going to borrow the one about Genesis, about the first thing that comes out of your mouth or the first look on your face, how that sets the tone. And the value of appreciation or acknowledgement is just so powerful if we pay attention to the things we want repeated. So that's what I hear you giving your children. What would you say is your highest priority as a husband?
It's a great question. Um, they say that one of the keys to a successful marriage. I learned this when I first got married. Actually, my mentor gave a small group on having successful marriage, and he said that it's the key. The three keys to a successful marriage are triple A. Attention, meaning paying attention to when your wife speaks, put down the phone, put down the computer, look directly into her eye, active listening, repeat over what she's saying in your own words so that she understands that you understand her. So attention, and attention mostly means listening and spending time together. Then affection, showing affection. Uh, if you show affection by buying small gifts, I buy flowers every week. Every Friday I try to buy flowers for my wife. And I know she loves them. She loves flowers. She really appreciates that. It's an easy thing for me, but it's like an easy way to show affection. And then yeah, saying I love you. I make sure to say the word. I don't just assume that it's understood. I say it all.
Yes.
And then appreciation, attention, affection, appreciation, just to say thank you for the things that it's easy to take for granted, for the laundry being done, for the dishes being done, for the supper being done, for the kids being taken out to school, for the really the millions of things that my spouse does, my wife does to make life comfortable and joyous. So I think those are my priorities: attention, affection, appreciation.
I love that formula. I'm going to steal that from you.
Please,
I was so fortunate that my late husband was very generous about all three of those A's. In fact, one of the times I would feel the most loved if I, said, I need to talk to you about something, if he would turn the TV off or put his newspaper down and give me his full attention, I just felt so loved. So I can imagine that those three A's are giving that same sense of being a valuable person in your life that you're giving to your wife. How would you measure your success as a father?
It's an amazing question. Um, I I grew up in a different era than my children grew up, obviously. My parents were great, but and not to take away from it, but when I grew up, my parents always expected me to be the best in the class,
Mm-hmm.
expected me to get 100 in every test. If I didn't get 100, one of them would ask, why didn't I get 100? Why did I
Oh
get?
gosh, that
But
very, very high
very
standard.
high standards, and I was very driven, very motivated. And the truth is, it wasn't like too much for me. I particularly excelled under those environments. I was very driven and very
Mm-hmm.
motivated, and that it helped me do well in school. But I know that not everyone can succeed in those
Yeah.
environments. So I'm very cognizant of that. That my children's success, my success as a parent, is not measured by their external academic achievements or other achievements, but it's measured primarily by, are they a healthy a healthy person emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and truly good person? Are they empathetic? Are they truthful? Are they compassionate? Are they disciplined? Are they trustworthy? Are they honest? So I believe that's how I define success. If my children, and thank God I'm very blessed that if they are truly good people, godly people like that, people that are emulate the Almighty, then I feel like I'm successful.
So you're what you are valuing in your children is their character.
I think character is it's not spoken about enough.
No,
You hear
you're
about
right.
everything else. You hear about success in every other metric, but even the word character is really spoken about, and it's I think it's the most important thing. That's ultimately all the flaws in society, all the flaws on this planet come from defects in individuals' character. And if you're a leader, you're a person with great influence and power, that defect can be greatly magnified and impact millions of people.
Yes.
But if we could collectively, each individual, we could improve on our collective character as humanity, that we would address every social problem that the world has.
I agree wholeheartedly. I agree wholeheartedly. I love that measurement because, as you said, not every child is academically gifted. Their gifts may be in some other area, but every child can learn and produce good character. So, how do you teach character to your children?
Amazing question. So the formula that me and my wife have devised is the following acronym.
Okay, I love acronyms.
It's PURE,
Okay,
PURE, Pure.
okay,
The first P stands for pure, meaning that you have to basically the way we raise our children, we have competition. The competition that we have it are the values of the street, the values
yes,
of society. So I'm in competition with those values. And I want my children to be raised differently than just what they'll pick up in the street. So
yes,
to do that, I have to have a controlled environment. So we want to make our home, at least our home can be a sanctuary of purity. The world, going out the world, they're going to be exposed to a million different things. But at least in my home, there'll be a pure environment where I know what's coming into my home. It's a rarefied, pure environment. Our children, our kids are very happy and they're well adjusted. They don't, yeah, they don't, they don't watch, they don't watch violent movies and shows like that. Um, so that's number one. It's that create a pure, rarefied environment in
I
your home.
love that.
Pure, like at least you have one fortress where they can
Yes,
regroup and recharge, re-energize. The next one is the U stands for unconditional love, which means that they have to feel like even if they make a mistake or they do the wrong thing, that it's not that you don't love them anymore. Even when you punish, they have to be punished, they have to be disciplined, like that they go to their room or they lose a privilege.
right.
It has to be clear that you still love them, and they have to feel it's unconditional. You don't love them because they do well, or you don't love another child better because they do well. It has to be clear that you love them, and the way you show you love, you show you love them by spending time with them, by reading them books, taking them one on one to the store, by primarily spending time with them is the best way to show love. Um,
Yes,
Giving them attention when they talk to you, to say I love you. So that's you as uncle. They have to feel this. It's a they have unconditional love from their parents. Then the R, this really relates primarily to your question, is to be a role model. You can't teach you have to teach by example. You can't say do as I say, but not as I do. You have to say do as I do. Um,
yes.
there's a there's a like a parable. Um, the parable goes, um, a person once goes to his rabbi and says, I don't understand. I always tell my child to study, but they don't study. So the rabbi says, he says, if all you do is tell your child to study, that all they learn is they should tell their child to study. They should see you study and then they'll study. The point is our children are going to copy us. So
Yeah.
what we want them to do, we have to exhibit ourselves. If we just say it, then they'll learn to say it. They won't learn to do it. So that's ours to be a role model. And the best way to be a role model, to be a good human being, is to the way you treat your spouse, like the way
Yes.
marital harmony and instilling values into your children are like hand in glove. That one of the best ways to teach your children is by how you treat your spouse, how they see you treat your spouse.
Oh, I love hearing you say that.
Okay, thank you. So that's ours. They should see, you're a role model. And yeah, we should have a home that's. I mean, we have a home. We have guests. It's a very welcoming home. It's a very it's we try our best to be role models for our children. And the last one is exuberance. Exuberance.
Oh, okay. That was a surprise. I was trying to guess what the E was.
So like yes, I'm Jewish and I try my best to pass down Jewish values, particularly
Uh-huh.
values of improving our character. And the way to show a love for these values is that they should see that I'm exuberant about it. I feel that I love it. It's not done out of rote, or it's not done because it's a burden. So if they see that I have a joy in the lifestyle, most likely they want to continue it. So it's yeah, having exuberance for these values is another way to pass it down. Having joy, and yeah, living life of joy. Living life of joy is the best way to make sure your children will want to continue those values.
I wish every child in the world could be reared in a home like yours with
Thank you.
the
Thank you.
that those models. I that's one of the driving forces for the work I do. It's because I want children to be reared in homes where there's peace and respect and joy and unconditional love. Thank you for doing such a great job of putting that in an acronym.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I love it. You run a very large and very demanding publishing business. What are the rewards that keep you inspired?
Amazing question. So to be completely honest, ultimately, this is my work as a job, and the purpose of my job is so that my job is not an end in itself. It's not the purpose of my life.
Mhm.
It's there to be a foundation to support my life. So I can have a means of support, so I can support my family and do what I feel is truly my calling. So I think just to get that, just address that head on, I work because it's a means to an end. And
Yes,
the end is I should invest to raise a beautiful family, and then I could be a teacher, and I could be an author, and I could be a writer, and I can be an educator.
yes.
That's but the work itself. So as you know, my background is I I'm a rabbi, and I was a rabbi
Mhm.
for 15 years, 10 years almost 10 years in the Boston area. And but the way I describe it is that being a rabbi is very rewarding, but not always financially rewarding.
Yes.
So as my family grew, I saw that it's just whatever salary I had, I wasn't going to be able to, pay bills like, like my kids' tuition, and just things were difficult. So I'm very blessed
Yes.
to be able to start this business with a lot of help from great people who supported me, who encouraged me. But one thing that really keeps me inspired is that it's not that different. It's not entirely different from my 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 work as a rabbi. In that my work as a rabbi, I was an educator. My goal was to try to bring positivity and to empower people, to uplift people, and I try my best to make sure that despite all the different topics that we speak about, the common thread of every interview, the common denominator is that it's uplifting people. You know,
Yes.
the organizing principle, the animating principle that that was the foundation of kind of the particular ethos of Authority magazine was, we started in 2017, and I had the sense that so much of news is addictive, but it's not necessarily nourishing. It's like junk food. It's like, eating eating candy. It maybe tastes good for a little bit, but you don't get full from it, but it's addictive. I wanted to create um, um, a media organization that was nourishing, that was like Whole Foods, that was you would consume it and you would feel nourished by it, you feel enriched by it. And that's why we avoided writing about news, because there are other great places to cover the news. We wanted just to cover human beings, people, for them to share their best advice, to share their best stories that could be impactful
Mhm.
to others. So to answer your question, I feel very grateful that I could be, generating so much content it's really uplifting people. It's really, people really touched by it.
My understanding of the meaning of the term rabbi is teacher. Is that correct?
Exactly.
So you moved from being the rabbi of a synagogue to the rabbi of an organization where you are teaching your uplifting principles, helping others to put the best of themselves forward into the news world to maybe counterbalance all the bad news that we get sick of hearing. My first husband died when I was only 23. I had two baby boys, and I quit watching the news because I was in so much pain. I couldn't stand to see other people in pain in the news. And it's a habit that I continued for the rest of my life. I'm almost 80 now, and I still don't watch the news. I hear enough of the most important topics to keep me somewhat abreast of what's going on. But I don't want to marinate my brain in all of that negativity.
I love that term, to marinate your brain. It's really, I think it's really appropriate. It's really, it's a profound illustration.
How do you maintain a healthy balance between the demands of your business and, I assume, the demands of a large family, as well as whatever personal care you need?
Amazing question. So I don't profess to be perfect at this, and it's
Well,
definitely
none
it's
of
a
us are.
perennial struggle, and it's a constant battle. And some weeks I'll be great, some weeks I won't be so great. But one thing that's really that makes it easier, is that I keep Shabbat. And what that
Yes.
means is that once a week, basically on Friday night to Saturday night, I don't use a computer, and we don't work. But most importantly, we don't engage in any like improvements that show our dominance over the world. The idea is to show humility, to say we're not really the masters of this earth. Really, this earth is controlled by the Almighty. We're guests here, and we're not going to show our dominance. So instead of working, we have 3 meals, 3 beautiful meals with our family. We have guests over. We go to synagogue, be with the community, and each of the meals are delicious, but also there's song, there's stimulating conversation. I like to share like a story that has a moral dilemma in it, and I ask all my children, and I ask the guests,
Oh,
you know, I ask
yes.
the guests their opinion, and then we have these great discussions. So even if I'll be working 24/7, of course I don't, obviously, but at the very least, my family knows that I'm going to be available um completely on Saturday, and that you have my full attention, no phone, no computer, and I'm there with them. So that makes it easy, because it's built in. It's like, you have the
Yes.
big rocks first. Another thing that's really been helpful is that I make it a stress that we try to eat dinner. We try to eat dinner all together as a family every night. So like, yeah, we can't always eat breakfast together or lunch together because you're in school, but at least dinner we eat together.
Mhm.
And that, I go around. This one of my daughters inspired this, but we go around and we share an act of kindness that happened to them. Like, what
Oh,
good thing
gosh.
happened to them? Was someone kind to them? Do they get something that they feel? What's their good thing that happened to them? And everyone goes around and shares it, and it helps us develop gratitude, and everyone feels that they're heard and they're listened to. So we do that every day by dinner, and so that's also it's helpful. Also, I try my best to I read to my younger ones. I always made sure to read to them. So like, I let my younger daughter, my daughter, she's 4, tell her, please choose a book. You choose a
Oh,
book, a book you want. It's not my choice. Just choose a book, and then I'll read it to her. And just reading is it's a very good bonding time. Another thing is walking. I walk
mhm.
with my wife almost every day. We take a walk together. Another answer to your question about great marriage tip. Walking is great in so many ways. It's number one, it's good exercise. Number two, being out in nature and getting exposed to the air and sunshine. But most importantly, you're able to talk uninterrupted to your spouse and hear each other and share ideas and hear how the day went. So those are some of like the big rocks that I put in that
Mhm.
help me spend time with my family and not just be consumed by work.
I like the term you put the big rocks in. I know that comes from Stephen Covey's illustration. But what I was hearing as you were talking is you've made a few decisions that are set in concrete. And once those decisions are made and they're not changeable, then you've given yourself the structure to be there for your family, to stimulate conversation, to enjoy meals together. I love that concept, and thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that's going to be valuable to anyone who hears this interview.
It's my pleasure.
Obviously, as a devout Jewish man, a rabbi. What role has your faith played in the journey of your life?
Amazing question. I think it really it impacts almost everything that I do, almost everything that I've ever done. Um, you know, you know, we're the teaching of Judaism. It's really a structure about how we can each improve our character to polish our heart so that it shines like a mirror,
Yes,
and that mirror reflects the divine. That's that.
yes,
If we could collectively polish our hearts into a mirror, we would reflect heaven on earth. You know,
yes, yes.
so so I see myself as an ambassador for humanity. Really, that's what Judaism is. Sees itself as like it's called like a priesthood for humanity, and everyone can join. Everyone can join if they want, but that idea is about showing the importance of improving our character. I'm being empathetic and having, avoiding injustice and being disciplined and living a life that emulates the divine. So so I'm very cognizant of that all the time. That I'm cognizant that people are always looking at me, looking at how I behave, and living almost like in a fishbowl. And it's my responsibility. It's my mandate to be an ambassador. You know,
I believe that we all leave a legacy, and we get to choose whether that legacy is a beloved legacy or one that others around us might choose to forget or wish they hadn't been a part of. And I, like you, I love my family, and I was thinking in prep for this interview, I was thinking it would be an interesting question to ask my kids and my grandkids. What do you think you'll remember about me when I'm gone? That's my legacy, as well as whatever good I've done in the lives of the couples that I work with. And to keep that forefront in your mind is one of the characteristics of your faith, you're saying.
exactly.
Okay, gosh, I love that. I am so grateful to be included in your, I forget the name of it, the Thought Leader Incubator, one of your newer members. I appreciate your candor this morning. I was shocked, frankly, when you agreed to let me interview you when I'm just a newbie on the block, so to speak. But thank you so much for being open and honest about these more personal areas of your life, rather than just your amazing success as a business person. Is there anything in particular you would like to add that someone watching this interview might find of value?
You asked such penetrating questions that I don't think I could add anything off the cuff. I'd have to like think deeply about that. But just in general, and I'm really very open. People can, if anyone has any questions, feel free to email me. My email is editor@authoritymag.co. You can reach out to me and on social media or email or many different ways. And I'm really trying my best to get back to everybody.
That's one of the things that my stepdaughter, who knew you before I met you, commented about you, is how open you are and how faithful you are to respond whenever she has sent you a question.
Thank you.
Yitzi, thank you so very, very much. I love the values that we share, and I love the acronyms that you made it easy to remember some of those values. I plan on using them with my clients.
Amazing. I'm so delighted. I have many more acronyms, so
All right,
we'll do
okay.
another one in the future.
Well, maybe we'll need to do another interview.
Sure, I'll be more than happy to.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, Nancy. I'm so excited to do this with you. I'm excited to see the article.
I will email this video to you. Is that the way this goes now?
Yeah, all I need is the audio, and yeah, we'll take care of the rest.
Pardon?
Oh, sorry. So let's Well, I'll talk to you afterwards. Tell you all the
Okay.
details afterwards.
Okay. Very good. Then I'm going to stop the recording.